All right, so we should be recording now. So welcome everyone. My name is Selle. I'm the director of the Alaska Primary Care Association's Workforce Development Program. We are also an AHEC center. And I've been working for the APCA for over 5 years, about 5.5 years. And we've been talking and thinking and dreaming about a DSP apprenticeship for a very long time. So I'm very excited that we are talking about the nuts and bolts of this DSP professional apprenticeship program that we are starting the class for on April 5th. So with that, I'm going to introduce or have Cathy and Louise introduce themselves.
All right, let's see. Yes, I'm Cathy Colwell, and I am I am working with the Direct Support Professional Apprenticeship with Mari. I have about 16 years of workforce development training in DSP work, and apprenticeship work is new to me, but I'm learning a lot about it, and it's been I've had a strong passion, I guess, for really helping train better and get more commitment and just improve the whole DSP workforce so that people are better compensated and all of that kind of thing. And so I'm hoping that this will be one of the ways that we can start that process or get help with that process. I know there's lots of folks that are working on that. So I put together a little bit of a slideshow, but I would love to have your questions. Angie, were you at the meeting, Lizette's meeting on Thursday?
I was, and that's why I recommended Liz, who's our HR director, to get us signed up for this so we could learn more about it.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through the slides, but as I go through, if you've got questions, I'd really like you to go ahead and let me know what they are. But in the meantime, and Mari, you're going to click through the slides for me?
Yes, I am.
All right. Okay, so we're going to start a little with the whole notion of who's qualified to be an apprentice. There are some minimum qualifications. They have to be at least 18 years of age, and that would be the people that we are seeing right now, or that you would already have employed in your when you're working. And also, who else is on the phone? Matt Fallon. So I'm guessing that's a requirement, I think, for DSP work anyway here in Alaska. So then there is an education, a high school diploma or a GED or another high school equivalency exam if there are others out there. And then obviously being physically capable of performing the tasks which you have to be a DSP. So those are the same basic requirements as you would have for your staff that you would hire. Okay. Now the agency itself will be in charge of the supervision, the mentorship of the employees that you would choose to go through the apprenticeship program. It doesn't mean that they have to be at your side the whole time. It just means that the mentor needs to know what they're doing and be available so that people feel like they have someone to talk to and connect with through the course of their apprenticeship. We will also be involved in working with that, but the agency also needs to have somebody that you can pick to have. That could be their supervisor, that could be their a very highly skilled DSP that you might have, that could be your HR person. That depends on the agency, but it's important that you really understand the the work that they need to have so that you can get them through the apprenticeship. Okay, next slide.
And I'm gonna apologize for the APU logo that is on this slide. I recycled a presentation that I co-presented with APU, so that is why that logo is there. We are not with the Alaska Pacific University, though they do provide credits for college credits for apprentices, so we can get to that later.
Okay. So in this registered, this is a registered apprenticeship that's registered, federally registered apprenticeship. So, and one of the criteria is that you can't have more than 2 apprentices per mentor. That doesn't mean you have to have 2, or that you could have more apprentices, but you'd have to have more mentors. So what we're hoping for right now is a small group just to get us started of no more than 6 to 8. So if, like, for example, if Trinian or if Matsu are interested in in doing this, and you each were to pick 2 people, then that would be enough for us. Then you would have 1 mentor. So that's kind of the way that works. One of the other thing that is important to know is that this model is competency based. So that if people come in with certain competencies and you can demonstrate those competencies, you can use that. You can also because DSPs do such a variety of different activities, you can choose which competencies meet the requirements of the on-the-job learning for that particular apprentice. And we do have a work process schedule that we have shown and a related instruction outline, which I don't think I have that up, but I can talk a little bit about that as we get to it. There is a probationary period that's a quarter of the program. And basically it's like an employment, it's just like employment where people can, if it just isn't working, either party can say this isn't working and it doesn't have to, that's basically all they have to do. But once the probationary apprentice has made it through that first quarter with a satisfactory evaluation of some kind, they will be getting full credit for that period as well as continuing the program. So it's not in addition to the year or the 2,000 hour time frame, but it is part of that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Would it be possible for me to put in my email address in the chat box and have you send me the slides, because the slides aren't moving forward?
Oh dear. Okay.
So
yes,
they're moving
I
left
can-
side.
absolutely.
And Angie and Liz, are the slides progressing for you? They are? Okay.
They are.
We must be frozen.
I'm
for you.
sure it's my internet connection.
We will definitely send that to you, Fallon, if you'll put your information in chat.
Okay,
Yay,
perfect. Thank
technology
you.
in Alaska.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no joke. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Great. So so we're talking about the probationary period. So once a person gets through the first quarter of their of that apprenticeship, then there has to be reasonable cause and opportunity for corrective action and so forth, which is no different, I'm sure, than what you have for your new hires anyway. At least that's been my experience, that's usually built in to that. So that's also built into this apprenticeship. Okay. So now your apprentices are going to be working as they're going through this. They're going to be working the same hours as any other worker. They will be taking classes though. They will be taking a 1 hour a week seminar with me that we need to figure out how to schedule around DSP work. But if people are working overtime, sometimes that gets to be a problem. So, and they will be having homework to do that then we will talk about in our 1 hour session. So that's why the caution about overtime is there, because I know that a lot of people end up working overtime because, you know, they can't find somebody else to pick up a shift or something. But if we can try to work with that, that would be really helpful. And then if you're hiring part-time people, it's a year-long program for people who are full-time. It might take longer than that for a person who's part-time, because we do want them to have 2,000 hours of training or 2,000 hours of work involved before they complete their apprenticeship. And that's accurate, right, Mari?
Yes, so it's competency based, not hours based, but it's going to take about 2,000 hours for them to get through all their competencies, is my understanding.
Okay.
Louise, jump in if you have a different understanding.
My understanding is the same.
Okay.
Okay, great. Now there is a wage progression, and I put that on there. We try to work with what folks are being paid or below what folks are being paid right now, so that it doesn't eliminate anybody. We know that this is tough, this whole wage thing. The requirement for this is that there is it's progressive, and that means that we start at one level and end at a different level. And I know that there are agencies that we have to work with to make sure that happens. If you pay more than what, could we go on to the next slide, because that's the wage. Let's just take a look at this. The hourly wage that we started with was $10.55 an hour. For the first 6 months, it would be bumped up a little bit in the second period, and then at the end, there would be another bump. It doesn't have to be this kind of a bump. It can be as much as 50 cents an hour if that's all that can be done. I know the ARC just went through a big push for higher wages, and so I know as in my line of work and working with DSPs and DSP agencies, that this is kind of a sticking point for lots of people. But if you can show, one of the things that it does is it provides value to the person who's going through the apprenticeship. If they know that they can, at the end of it, they will be, they will be being paid more than if they had never done the program at all, or be in line for maybe some other kinds of specialized roles that maybe they wouldn't get otherwise. Yeah, Liz.
So I just wanted to make a couple comments and ask a question about the wages. Is that okay?
Yes, please do.
So I noticed the hourly wage is just slightly above what minimum is in Alaska, which is $10.34 an hour as of January 1st. So that's just slightly above, which is awesome. And the jump of $2.45 and then another $2. What is the mindset behind that kind of an increase?
So,
Mari.
yeah, so we wanted to start the apprenticeship at a place where pretty much any agency can start someone.
Okay.
So the idea is it's low. $10.55 is a very, very low wage, but they're getting a whole year of excellent education. So there's a price to that education that they're getting. And so that's why, in theory, we can start them a little lower is the mindset. Now,
Okay.
by the time they're done with the apprenticeship, they're have had a whole year of training at your agency, but also with us, where, you know, Cathy is mentoring them once a week. They're getting peer mentor by this group of cohort that they're in. They have earned a national certification from the Office of Apprenticeship after they're done. Possibly they've earned an undergraduate certificate from APU, which is a benefit of this program, that they could elect to earn that if they want. And so at that point, at the end, after a year, they've demonstrated competency and excellence. And so their wage at that point is going to be much higher than when they started, or higher. Now, the thing about this wage scale is that these are minimums. So
Right.
if you start people higher, that's totally fine. You just can't start someone at
Lower.
$10.35 an hour, because then you're lower.
Right.
And then when they're done within that year of going through the apprenticeship, they can't earn less than $15 an hour. So
Perfect.
this is a framework, and you just have to be higher than this. And they do need a bump in the middle, is part of the requirement of the apprenticeship, and where that is exactly during their 1 year that they're in the apprenticeship is not strict. It just needs to be at someplace middle-ish, and it needs to be a bump, any bump.
Right. Well, and that's perfectly aligned with the concept of, I don't know if this is the right word, but professionalizing the DSP workforce, right?
Yes.
The value add, you add training, you add skills, you add experience. Well, we start at $13.25 for our chore services, which is just simply household chores. We go all the way up to $20. This is all based on experience and skills and training and. So this is perfectly in line with what we I hate saying desperately, but what we really need.
desperately need.
In this
Right,
field,
because we
I-
are struggling. We are one of many
Yeah.
agencies that are struggling to find quality DSPs to come into the workforce and stay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that this is so great because what you just explained there and going through that was the selling point for someone to take on that learning program and take on those extra hours is the pride of getting the raise because they're doing the learning. We do that in the professional workplace. If you get a certificate or an associate's or a higher degree, we reward you with more money. And I think that would be nice to be as the selling point to get people to participate in it. One of the things, especially, 10 years ago, but it still happens today, is often in competing for a good caregiver or DSP, they'll say, well, can you pay me more than such and such agency? And then it just kind of becomes a little wage war without any demonstrated skills or certification. It's just in that desperate need. So I really am excited about this program. And as Liz says, it's definitely in alignment with what we try to do. She actually instructs, she worked with the Alaska Training Cooperative, and she does the DSP core competencies course for our folks. So she really understands that need.
Well, and that was my next question is, are you incorporating the training cooperatives core competencies at all in this program? Is that even part of it? Is that something you'd consider? Or is that something, because we've already committed to do it for all of our employees regardless?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One is that if you're familiar with the Path Academy, that's the pre-apprenticeship pipeline. And we were, and they get the core competencies through that, because Mari's folks are all trained to, well, they're all trained, but they certainly are plenty of people that are qualified to do the core competencies. And everybody that comes out of the Path Academy that's with the track of DSP has those core competencies. In terms of the on-the-job, the related instruction, we've been working with Liz Liz Cottle and Betsy Chivers and
Oh, good.
but right now that we went with a curriculum that is sort of computer based, that's on their own, that's a best practices curriculum through the Center for Excellence at the University of Minnesota, because they're not quite there yet in terms of being able to offer all the things that we need for the apprenticeship. But you know, we want very much to have that all connected. I mean, that certainly is a goal.
No, that's amazing. My final little piece is we've actually hired several people from Path Academy, and we still have a couple. Due to COVID, we did lose a couple to homeschooling, but we do have a couple very successful DSPs that came directly from the Path Academy, and so I'm very happy to hear that that's the pre-apprenticeship path.
Yes, so our dream is that we will start having these big classes of Path Academies where then your agencies can come and select who your next cohort of apprentices are going to be from our Path Academy. So then they flow into becoming new employees at your agency, and they take the knowledge, and so it's a pipeline. They take that beginning knowledge that they've started gaining at the Path Academy before they're even at an agency, and then the apprenticeship is adding to that
Awesome.
scaffolding, I think they call it, adding to that, and then by the time they're done with the apprenticeship, they are really master, you know, on their way to being master DSPs, right, or excellent DSPs.
Yeah.
Mary,
No,
that
and they
is
have
so
to become the
perfect. And
expert.
somehow I'd missed that connection, because I was thinking of, you know, who do we have, you know, that we want that increased level of training. But this is perfect because, one, it sets up that expectation of, if you're interested in going into this type of career path, you do Path Academy, and then you intern with an agency, just like any other educational program. And I'm so glad you stated it out that clearly, Mary, because I hadn't made that connection. But that's what we need, is that feeder of people that we can bring on as an internship. And in that case, they would be most of them would be without real work experience. So this hourly wage increase makes sense.
Well, and one thing that Teresa, who does the Path, who's in charge, I guess, would that be
Yep, Novakovic.
Path Academies,
Mhm.
was saying that that oftentimes the people who take that Path Academy are already employed, but they feel like they need more training. Which is interesting. So it's kind of a flip from that. And so another thing another way of looking at it would be, if you've got some fairly new people that have just come in that you're looking at, or that you've just hired, that you think would be, that have either a commitment or a passion for it, but don't have a lot of skill yet. They could either go through a Path Academy if there was one available, or they could actually jump right into the apprenticeship, if that's if there isn't a Path Academy available at that point.
Well,
Right?
and kind of
Yeah.
selfishly, I think for Trinian, I am pretty involved with the Path Academy. I do mock interviews with them every year, and really work fairly closely with Teresa and her team to access all of the individuals there and try to help support them. Not everybody's a fit, but you never know. So I'll stop talking now.
Okay. Well, I see that Mari just put on the these are the on the job learning skills that have been, these have come from other apprenticeships in other parts of the country, because this is a federal program. So other people have been doing these things. So if you go down to can you move to, see where it says FT, DF, PIT, and CD? If you see that basically is 4 different times when you would check. So the The first one would be, stands for field training. And what that means is that they're working, the mentor is teaching them, or the mentor is showing them what to do, or visiting with them about what to do. And they're learning. They're in that learning mode. It's sort of a coaching model where, you know, the mentor does it, then the person does it with the mentor, and then the person does it alone. It's kind of that model. And so the DF stands for Demonstrated Fundamentals, and the PIT stands for Proficient in Task, and finally the completion date. So these are the different, these are all the different skills with different categories. The categories then are then supported by the related instruction through the College of Direct Support. So you can see that there's if you look, if you know about the, you know, I mean, if you know the competencies, you'll see that it's very connected, because a lot of the competencies that the core competencies are very much embedded in the in some of these skills. So then that's one way of taking a look at it. And then the agency itself, you can decide which skills meet that criteria for your particular people working with their particular clients. Because what happens, I mean, as we know, is that DSPs have a myriad of tasks, and not everybody does everything. And so consequently, I think that it's really important that as you go through it, that you say, okay, if I'm only working with people out in the community and doing day hab, for example, then I may not be very, you know, have too much residential kinds of things, but I do need to know what that's like, because maybe I might want to do that someday, or maybe I can I can be on call in case there's, you know, we have an earthquake and somebody can't get there or something, you know. So so I think that what it does is it makes a well-rounded person, well-rounded DSP, but it also, I'd like to think that it would also really focus on what that DSP is doing. If maybe they're only doing stuff with employment, maybe they're only doing stuff with residential. You said chore tasks at Trinian, that, you know, but they still are going to need to know about safety, and they're still going to need to know about rights, and, you know, all of that kind of thing. So that's what this document shows. And then
Awesome.
And then at the end of that is I think you skipped through, you went to that, and these are the curriculum that, and this is not necessarily an order of the way we'll do things, but it does show you the College of Direct Support, which I worked with the College of Direct Support back in South Dakota when I first started training staff, and I really was impressed by their, you know, it's really cutting edge best practice curriculum. And so I'm really confident that it's going to show people what's the current best practice is, and to some degree maybe even help them to become leaders in making sure that Alaska is using best practice, you know, as a group, as a state. So you can, yeah.
Oh, I was going to just clarify, so it's clear that the way the apprenticeship works is that all the apprentices, so we're hoping to get between 6 and 8 in this cohort starting April 5th. We've actually already filled 3 slots, so we're looking more like 3 to 5 more. They're not confirmed, so we'll see. So they're going to spend 1 hour every week with Cathy for about 24 weeks. so the class is 1 hour every week. And so they'll have homework, they'll have videos and PowerPoints to watch on their own, but then they come back as a cohort and they discuss what they learned. And this is, as Cathy noted, this direct support professional curriculum. These are the topic areas that they'll cover in the classroom. In the classroom, I put in air quotes, it's done all via like this Zoom. So, you know, they don't have to drive anywhere. They can just, if they have a computer that they have access to at work or at home, they can just log in and take the class in real time with Cathy. And then the work process that you saw, that is all done at your facility with a mentor that you've selected for the apprentice. And so that on-the-job learning and that classroom time work together. And we did not introduce Louise. We should have.
Thank you.
Louise is our apprenticeship coordinator and coordinates the entirety of all our apprenticeship programs. And Louise will be tracking everyone's on the job learning and making sure that the DSPs are on pace and completing everything at the pace that will make them, you know, complete the apprenticeship in the time frame that they wish to complete the apprenticeship. So if it's a full-time person, they should be done in a little under a year. If it's a half-time person, they should be done in a little under 2 years. And so she'll be tracking that and making sure that on that those logs are getting turned in every month. And essentially, so this is all work that I think everyone is already doing. You're already onboarding new people and you're already training them on the job. But what this hopefully will let you do is do it in a way that's very organized, and you have outside resources that are helping you track it and make sure that people are completing their competencies, these competencies, in a timely manner. And then you have Cathy, who's an expert, who's mentoring and teaching on a weekly basis your new DSPs. And then there's everything you're doing, because you're not going to stop doing your trainings and the onboarding and education that you provide.
So I also heard you guys mention the word facility. So we are in-home care, meaning we go to individuals' residences. Has that concept been approached, and how do we get any suggestions on how we get the clearance and buy-in from the clients that are now going to have an intern and a mentor? What are your thoughts on that? Or is that a different conversation?
I guess that's interesting to think about. I hadn't thought about that quite that way, but there are plenty of DSPs that do exactly what you're talking about, and often, I mean, part of the problem with DSP work is that people work in isolation, where they're there with the person that they're supporting, and nobody really knows what's going on, you know, and so I guess that it would be, I mean, I would imagine that at least at some point you do some kind of shadowing or some kind of, you don't just well, maybe I'm assuming something. Do you send somebody in with someone without an introduction, without seeing what kinds of things they should be doing? You know, hopefully you're already doing that with somebody, so there's a handoff, right? Yeah, and so what that would mean, I guess, would be a conversation to say, periodically we'll, you know, I'm going to want to come in and visit and see how things are going. I mean, they're used to that with their care coordinators and their other folks that kind of check up. They're also, the mentor can plan times with the apprentice where they're sitting down in the office and the person is describing to them what they're doing.
Okay.
Because they don't have to see it as much as they have to be able to show you that they're competent in what they're doing.
That's logical.
Yeah. And so, so I think it's both, you know, I mean, I think that there'll be some times when the mentor might be with the person, but not always. Again, it's very clear in the standards that you don't have to be in site, which I think for DSP work is critical, because you're not, you know, you're really very independent, and part of that is a big problem, because oftentimes after the beginning of your training, you don't get any more, you know. And so that's one of the things that I'm excited, after having worked with a lot of DSPs who felt kind of abandoned. I worked with an executive director who, when I first started this project, it was a new position that they had brought in, and he said, the trouble is that we assume that everybody knows how to do everything, and then we get mad when they don't know how to do it or they make a mistake, and then they think they're not getting paid enough for us to get mad at them, and they leave. And so, you know, trying to break that cycle, it means making sure that people are confident and that they have somebody to reach out to and so forth. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, where are we now, Mari?
We have a question from Angie.
Oh, okay, Angie.
No, I was just gonna say I have to go, but I am so excited about this program. I want Trinian to participate. We've been looking for something like this throughout the 15, 16 years that we've been here. So I'll let Liz finish up, and she'll be our main person to head this up. I just want to let you know you have my full support. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Angie. And let me just throw out there that there is no charge for this. This is fully funded through grants, and by no charge for the instruction or participating in the apprenticeship. We have secured grant funding that will keep us going with this for a while. And so, we plan to continue to look for funding so that cost is not a barrier for agencies to use this DSP model.
That is very exciting. So just outside of the wages and normal benefits of an employee, there would be nothing additional.
Right. So your
Fantastic.
investment would be time, you know, to work with the apprentice, assign a mentor. So there, you know, not to say there would be no costs to the organization, but the hope is that, you know, there's payoff in the end, because you're training people and your staff are going to be more excellent.
That's exciting. Really exciting, you guys.
So I put the PowerPoint back up. Cathy,
Yes.
do you see that? Okay.
So because this is a national apprenticeship, they will get a certificate at the end of the program. So that's an important, and they can take that anywhere in the country and show that they've done this apprenticeship. So if they leave Alaska and want to go somewhere else, they take this with them. So I think that's really, again, that I think we need more of this, just to promote. I mean, I know we're all in the, you know, I know NCORE and all kinds of folks are working really hard at this whole dynamic, but we've got to keep pushing. And I think that's why I'm excited about apprenticeship, because I think it will help with that process. I'm not sure what else. Where are we with the slides? Okay. Oh, we talked about related instructions. So if you see the different areas in the curriculum, might think of that as a textbook. Like if a person is going to school, that's their homework, and they can do that whenever it works for them. That's all in, you know, on their time. But the 25 weeks that we will gather virtually, we will talk about that. I will assign them a particular section, and we'll talk about that and how that relates to what they're doing on their job. One of the things that I found was the biggest missing link in training that I discovered when I was really actively training staff was that people would take these online kinds of things, but the interpretation that they might, I don't know, the interpretation that they might give to those without any kind of discussion could be really problematic, and or because they were, a lot of our staff were college students, and they would just kind of, sort of do it very sort of haphazardly, click through things and not have any kind of accountability of what kind of training. I never really knew how much they actually got out of it unless I actually had a chance to sit down and say, okay, let's talk about this. And I've been an educator for many, too many years to count. And discourse or conversation is always where you get your aha moments, I think.
And experiential learning is much more effective.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't have questions until you get hit, it's sort of that at the point of need. And hopefully that's what we will be doing with that 25. I'm trying to figure out, all of a sudden something's on my screen that's interfering. There you go. Anyway, I think that 25 weeks worth, but then I will still be available until they finish their apprenticeship. If they need more support or more, more, I don't know, just some feedback, or just, want to talk through something or whatever, but a formal thing of 25 weeks.
Well, and not everybody learns at the same speed or the same methodology either. So I
Right,
love the flexibility with this and adaptive to various styles of learning. I think that's really important.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. All right. Okay, we talked about that, and we can certainly send you the full curriculum and OG on the job learning schedule. We can email that to you.
Yeah, we will.
So that would be, DSP at Alaska. See, I didn't. Okay, so what is it?
Slightly,
that
it's
should be
slightly
D-
incorrect on. Yep.
Yeah, well, we should fix, it's DSP at alaskapca.org. Yeah, it is the
okay.
email, so that's a typo.
Yeah,
We'll fix that.
at alaskapca.org. Okay, great. And then we've got yours, Liz, then. Thank you. All
So
right.
we like Cathy said, we will send out some documents. When we send out the what's called the work process or Appendix A, it is very hard to understand, but since you've been through this presentation, Liz and Fallon, it should make sense now, because you'll understand what the wage scale means, and you'll understand that work process. You'll recognize that that is the on-the-job learning. But if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out. And so we have a deadline of March 26th for this upcoming cohort, which is going to be a small cohort. So if you have individuals that are still fairly new with you, then please, sign them up for the apprenticeship, and they can start with the class, the introduction orientation, which is mandatory on April 5th. It's April 5th, right, Louise and Cathy?
That's what you wrote down, yes.
Yes. We haven't picked a time yet.
Okay.
Wasn't sure, again, with DSPs, they're all over the place working wise. And so, but we do need to schedule a time for Louise to be able to go through some of the requirements and so forth before, and then we can schedule a time when everybody can meet to do our once a week seminar, and I can, give them the curriculum and everything.
So step one is identify them. Step two, share the contact and ensure that they do contact you. So I'm gonna try by the 19th to have some ideas and make contact, and I'll see what we can come up with by the end of the week.
Sounds good.
And for Liz and Fallon also, if you guys could give us an idea, and I completely understand, DSP is not my area of expertise. So that's why I do defer to Cathy. But if you could give us an idea of what might be a good day or time to hold class, that way we can actually accommodate, because again, that very first class, that orientation, I would like to keep the time that they meet the same every week to include
Good.
orientation. So if that means I need to work in an evening for the apprentices
Oh,
to do their orientation, I will. Because I understand that this is not a 9 to 5 position. I get that. But again, I defer to Cathy as far as all teachings. My certifications are in a whole different arena. So, if you can give us an idea of a day and or time that might be good for DSPs to meet each week, then that will give us something to work with. And as soon as we know, have an idea of what might work for your staff, then, we can definitely accommodate class.
Awesome. All right,
And-
well, I apologize. I do have to go. I have an employee here I need to meet with. But I look forward to getting the information, and we will be moving very quickly to join the ranks and support you.
great. Thank you so
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You are so welcome. You guys have a fantastic day.
Same to
You
All
you.
right.
Okay, Fallon, do you or your colleagues there have any questions for us? I'm not sure.
Yeah, can you go back to the slide, because now I can see them, about the wages?
Yes. Let me click back.
There we go.
So they have to end at 15?
Or, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so at the end of the apprenticeship, so after 1 year, they have to make at least $15 an hour. And actually, Louise,
Yes,
can they, if they don't match the wage scale, we can make exceptions per employee, right? We have to request Appendix E.
yes, on Appendix E, we would just need something on letterhead. If this wage scale is outside of, for lack of better terminology, budgetary confinements, if the 15 is going to be too much, if we can get something on letterhead that states what the wage scale would be that your apprentices would follow, then we would just add it to your employer agreement, and then that would become part of the file, and then that's what we would go by.
So, okay, well, that makes it better.
What is your wage progression?
Well, our starting wage for our direct service providers with no experience is $13 an hour. So the 10.15 to 13 would be fine. We could probably, and we bring them in anywhere from $13 and up, depending upon experience. So we could go higher, but we couldn't go to 15. There's no way.
Okay, then at that
have
point,
to
Fallon,
see
all
where-
we would need is just something on letterhead as to, they would start at the 13, and then at approximately 6 months or 1,000 hours, they would be raised to this amount. And then upon completion at the 1 year or a little bit longer, depending upon if they're working part-time or not, what their ending wage would be. And then we would just add that to the employer agreement, and that is not going to be a problem at all.
And there
Okay.
needs to be a bump, but it doesn't have to be a real big bump. Like even if you can afford another 50 cents an hour, or, $1 more an hour, or whatever, at the
Okay.
end, that would
So we
satisfy.
could bump their wage at the end if we started them at the 10.55, went to 13, and then went up from there. So I'd have to mess with it. But if it's not solid, like I'm looking at, like you're saying, and I can work with it, then I can probably come up with something that would work.
Oh, good, great.
Yeah. Is that something that we have to get approval from John Hockla or Louise, or is that some, I don't know how often we do.
Oh, I'm sorry, you weren't talking to me.
No, I was asking Louise if that's
I
something that
would
we have to
send
get
it
approval for.
to, I would send it to John. He's not giving me any issues on
Okay.
anybody. Especially if we put an explanation on there as to why their ending pay would be lower than because our wage salary, or excuse me, our wage schedule is based on industry standards, but he also understands that industry standards are not flat across the board. So as long as we have a wage schedule per employer with an explanation as to why they're at such and such rate, especially if it's lower, then he's not giving me any issues. Of course, most of mine are above industry standards. So, I mean, I would send it to him ahead of time. That would not be an issue at all.
Awesome.
Any other questions? I know that this wage one is kind of a sticky wicket, but besides that,
Yeah,
do you have anything, any other
reality
questions?
is that the wage is always gonna be an issue until everybody gets certified. Then once everybody becomes certified, then it becomes a profession, then we can get more wages from Medicaid. So it's a horribly revolving window, and if we don't start, we're never gonna get the more wages that we need, so.
Exactly, yes.
And guys, I
Okay, well, if you
apologize. I
ladies
have to step out. I
send
gotta
me
go to
all
class.
of the information via paper in an email, that would be great.
Literally
We won't
doing that
have
as we speak.
anybody for the April class. It's too soon to get this off the ground for us. If you could give me a schedule of what's up and coming when the next class is starting, that would be great. And I
Fallon, the
will
next
get
set
with
of classes will be in,
management.
the next set of classes is in the fall.
Okay. That may give us just the right amount of time then.
Wonderful.
Yeah, if you guys go ahead and send me the information, I will work on the wage progression scale with our finance department and see if we can't come up with something that helps get us going.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Thank you much. Well, it's nice to visit with you and looking forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you so much. You ladies have a great day.
Same to you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.